Okay, welcome everybody. So it's the first international debate organized by Ad Personam, as many of you know. It's in English, obviously. So with me today is Herman Fåne from the Norwegian Progress Party Youth. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and from the Polish organization, the Association of Young Democrats, is Joshua Bonner. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me and thank you for organizing this debate.
Okay, so I guess without much further ado, we will start with our first question. I'll remind every single one of you that you can ask questions in the live chat, and we will probably ask them at the end of the debate. So yeah, be sure to stay till the end and hear your own questions. So let's go. Herman, in 2002, actually, Biden voted for an American intervention in Iraq. He later called this decision a mistake and repeatedly criticized the US military action inside of Iraq. Was his change of heart right? Like, was this the right thing to do, or do you think that the US should actually stay in Iraq?
Well, I believe that it was a mistake to go into Iraq in the first place. And
Okay.
the fact that he changed his mind, I believe that's a positive thing. Everyone can make mistakes and stuff like that. The thing we have seen with the United States is that they have been making interventions in different, especially Arabic countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, but also in Syria as well. And what we have got from that is mainly migration crises. We have civil wars and no stability. And of course, as fighters for liberty and peace, you should always try to work against dangerous dictators. But
Makes
in the
sense.
same time, you see the society they have now if you see what they have now in addition to what they used to have with the dictators, it's much worse. So I believe that it was a mistake to go to war against Iraq, and I'm pleased that Joe Biden has changed his mind.
All right, yeah, I think that's a valid point. Joshua, would you like to add something to that?
Well, not a great controversy between us here because I think I generally share my opponent's opinion. But President Biden's change of stance on Iraq war is, in my view, a perfect example of a major public official being able to admit to his past mistakes, but the one that understands that there is no reason to stick with your opinion when you already see that this is outdated or simply wrong. And so Joe Biden's change of mind on this particular issue is a great choice. I think having knowledge about the region situation that we have today, and especially looking back at how U.S. administration failed to make a comprehensive plan for what was ought to happen after removing Saddam from power, I think it is clear that it was a wrong decision to go there. Maybe to go there the way they did it. Maybe it was possible to make some intervention, but to do it somehow different. Well, it was clearly shown in a British Chilcot inquiry report that it was a mistake. For example, not all diplomatic options were used before the attack, and we now know that Saddam, in fact, did not have weapons of mass destruction. That was the main reason to go there. So yeah, and a very important point of why it was wrong to go there was that there was no clear vision about what was going to happen when the regime was going to be taken from power. There was no clear plan. Nobody knew what exactly is going to happen. And so I welcome Joe Biden's change of opinion about this. I think it's a very mature decision and behavior to admit making mistakes, even it's such a big issue as going to war. But yeah, I agree with Herman in general.
I think that's something we all agree on. So every single one of us. Would you guys actually support removing the U.S. military from other countries as well? So let's say there's a lot of military presence in a lot of countries in the world. Still, I mean, the U.S. military is known for being in basically every single Arabic country, I believe. And so, would you actually support removing the troops from this foreign land? Joshua.
Well, I think it should be done. If it should be done, it should be done in regard to a very certain situation and circumstances. After long and clear analysis and making it sure to public that it is well understood why we do that and what is our plan. Now, during Donald Trump's administration, we seen him and his administration starting to bring back soldiers from Afghanistan, from Iraq, and it's a great problem actually for NATO because there was no consultation before making this decision, and so we have unstable situation in the region, and maybe for some time we will lack a proper regulator of the situation, because the American troops already, yeah, they're still there, but no as much as they were. So yeah, I think it should be done, but it should be done with a concrete plan, well thought, publicly discussed, and then we can think of removing American troops from Iraq or from Afghanistan or somewhere else.
Okay, I see. Would you add anything to that, Herman?
Yes, please. Mainly, it's war against terrorism. When the US are going to war, especially in the last 15, 20, 30 years, it's been against terrorism. And I see the fact that it's hard to make peace with terrorists, of course. But in the same time, war should always be the very last option for a country. And my impression is that the United States haven't always had war as the last option, but maybe as the second, third, or fourth option, if you understand what I mean. And I believe that the bar to go against war in for the US have been too low. They have to raise the bar before they go to war. But if they should go out of war in itself in general, it kind of depends on the situation. But I believe that in many cases, the US would, the US and the globe in itself would benefit from going out of war. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, I see. So not a lot of debate on this question. Maybe the next one will be a bit spicier. Okay, so Joshua, will relations with China deteriorate much more under Joe Biden, or will the emotions subside? So, do you think his policy on China will be even tougher than Donald Trump's, or he'll go with a lighter approach?
Well, I don't think it will be tougher. However, I think it is clear now that United States and China are on a crash course. They are on a crash course because the position of the country that is the world's leader in trade or in production is also a position of a leader that promotes certain world order. And so that's the position that both of the countries seek. So I think there is no way to escape this kind of argument between these two countries. I don't think it would be tougher. I think it's rather, for sure, it's a matter of style, because Joe Biden will do much more things more pragmatically, much more diplomatically. He will try to bring this together with him on his side, fighting with China on this trade war. But I don't think he's going to end it, because it is impossible for a country like US to give up its position as a world leader now. It is clear that the war will continue. However, it will be quite different. It will be much more focused on details, on certain policies, not on being aggressive or not about being aggressive, and so I believe Biden's approach will go actually quite the same way when it comes to strategic thinking, that China is the main threat to the United States position. However, it will be a matter of different style and details in doings.
I see. Herman, I give you the floor.
Thank you. I believe that Trump has done quite an okay job with China. Maybe not like strategically, but he's been tough and find the balance point between having won quite a lot won quite a lot of against China with the customs and stuff like that, but in the same time, China owns very, very much of the U.S. state debt. So China, in many cases, has the United States in a headlock. Joe Biden has signalized that he will be tough with China, but being tough with China was one of the main topics for Donald Trump during his presidency. So I believe that Trump has prioritized the USA all the way, and he's gained quite a lot from it. He's moved a lot of workplaces back to the US. They are using more of the American established fabrics and stuff like that. And of course, it means that America will have more workplaces and gain more money. That's a fair case. But in the same time, China is moving upwards to be this huge state in the global world and a big challenger for the United States with the new Silk Road and Xi Jinping going around in Africa and helping out and building relations. The US has not done that. So we have to be very aware of China, and if we be too tough, if the US will be too tough with China, we will absolutely cause trouble for the Western society.
Yeah, I think that's a very important remark. Okay, so Joshua, would you say anything more, anything else, or?
Yeah, even I think I have a question to Herman, because as far as I know,
great.
he identifies himself as a libertarian. So I'd like to ask him about his opinion about what's going to happen to world trade, because he mentioned jobs coming back to United States, and we have to say that Donald Trump was the one that brought back the protectionism policies and narrative. So how do you see it? Do you think that that the current president will be the one that comes back to the free trade ideas, or the one that keeps on with the protectionism of Donald Trump in order to secure those jobs?
Yeah, thanks for a great question. And of course, Donald Trump has been doing a nationalistic, protectionist politics from the very beginning during his presidency. And of course, it means that you gain workplaces and stuff like that, but it also means that you have a more unstable world. Because what's very important for the United States as kind of like the world leaders, it's very important that they work for stability in the world. And we can all say that Trump has never done anything for making stability in the world. In my opinion, I hope that Joe Biden will be a kind of like a weak president, a president that does not interfere very much with trading and stuff like that, lower the taxes and lower the customs so we can get more free trade. And in the same time, with more trade, we build more relationships between the countries. And the fact that countries are dependent on each other is the main reason why we don't go to wars and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. I think it's about time we go to the third question. Let me see. Okay, guys, so in terms of Europe, which president would be more beneficial, as in Donald Trump or Biden? Do you think Biden will actually improve relations with both the individual countries of Europe and the European Union as a whole? Or would you say that Trump's politics was actually much more pro-European than Biden would ever be? So, Herman.
Thank you. I believe that Joe Biden will be more pro-European than Donald Trump. We have seen already that Joe Biden has signed the Paris deal once again. They have joined it. The Jens Stoltenberg in NATO is also congratulating Joe Biden and wishing him best of wishes, and hope that we can have a good transatlantic cooperation, work together. And I believe that Joe Biden will be more of prioritize the fact that he will be kind of the world leader and will fight for peace and connections between countries rather than just the US first. So while Trump worked for a better USA, and we can discuss if he made that or not, we have Joe Biden that will fight for more like a better world. And I believe that's highly beneficial in Europe. Donald Trump were tough with NATO and with other European countries. And Joe Biden will probably be more of a president that will work for corporations, like work together. And at the same time, there's a lot of there's a reason why Trump became president, and there's a reason why so many people are supporting Trump. And we kind of see that in Europe as well. We see a lot of protectionists and right protectionists, if you can say, that really support Trump and other people that have the same ideas as Trump. And I believe that that's not something we should just look away from and ignore. There's a reason behind it. So the will in the European people to work for Biden instead of working for Trump, if you know what I mean, will probably, I don't know what we will see there. It kind of depends on each country and stuff like that. For example, in Eastern Europe, it's more common to support politicians that are more to the right than we see in, for example, in Scandinavia or Central Europe. So if the Eastern Europe are likely as welcome to Joe Biden as Donald Trump, I'm not so sure of. But I'm positive that Joe Biden will work for more stability and more peace, and work for working together with Europe as well.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Okay, so Joshua, do you agree that Biden is much more pro-European, but on the other hand, that Trump was a better president for the US? Let's say that he put America first instead of international relations.
Of course, I agree, and of course, I'm sure that that there is no doubt that the one for Europe is Joe Biden. Well, of course, after the Trump administration, now we have to go through some time of rebuilding our mutual trust that was broken and devastated by Donald Trump. However, Joe Biden is a experienced statesman. He understands the importance of the alliance between US and Europe. And so there is no reason to feel that that the cold relations that took place under Trump administration will continue. You know, there is no such partner for United States under Biden as Europe in terms of any strategic policies like fighting climate change, which is the biggest challenge for the world now. I really welcome the President Biden's decision to rejoin Paris Agreement. It is a clear sign that he wants his country back on track in this battle for our future. We need to cooperate on security because the nature of aggression changes right now from classical military actions to cyber attacks or disinformating the public in the social media. I believe President Biden is a much better choice for cooperation on these issues. Not only him, but his administration of experience and major officials. Also, when it comes to trade, both EU leaders and President Biden want to go back to treating one another seriously. And so we all want to protect the free and fair trade for goods between us, which will be one of the most crucial elements after the pandemics of rebuilding our economies. And so yeah, I'm sure Joe Biden is much better for us, and so it's time for celebrate his presidency in Europe.
All right, guys. So we know that Biden will obviously be the president for Europe. However, if you were both Americans, so you live in the US, you are Americans for the question's sake, who would you vote for? I guess we can start with Joshua.
Well, of course, Joe Biden. It is not only about foreign policy, but it's also his internal policies that I find much better, much more satisfying for an average American, because the leader's responsibility is not only for those on the top, but also struggle in a society, and I believe that Joe Biden has a much better plan for them. Also, holding to much more diplomatic and good foreign relations is an important thing for a citizen, because you have then no fears of losing your job or of other countries' military action against you. So if I was an American, I would definitely vote Joe Biden.
Okay, and Herman, would you vote Biden too, or as an American, would you support Trump? Or actually, maybe you'd vote for Joe.
Well, for me, it's quite a hard decision. Well, it was a hard decision because personally, I'm to the right in the politics, and I'm a libertarian. I want less government and lower taxes, more economic freedom to each individual, and stuff like that. And that's of course something the Republican Party stands for. But in the same time, it's not something Donald Trump stands for. Well, he has lowered the taxes and stuff like that, but he also is have been fronting a protectionist politics. And in the same time, well, I would not have voted for Bernie Sanders, for example. But when it's between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, I would probably go for Joe Biden. But I can say as well that I'm really no fan of Joe Biden either. For me, I would rather vote for a libertarian candidate from the Republican Party, for example, Marco Rubio or something like that. That's more kind of my lane in politics. But between Trump and Joe Biden, probably Joe Biden, because for me, there's something that's more important than politics. And Donald Trump stands for, he says things and put people up against other people and are splitting the entire society. And for me, when he is trying to gain voters by making fear in the society and says that these people are wrong and have this group mentality against a certain group of people, for example, Hispanics or Black people or whatever it would be, I believe that is much more dirty and much more important than if the taxes are lower or higher or stuff like that. The fact that Donald Trump has made people do violence and go against the Capitol and stuff like that, we see that people with different politics opinions are more likely to do violence against each other now than they used to in the American states. And I believe that is very dangerous, and therefore I would rather vote for Biden than Trump. But if it was made, it probably the major part of that is because of Joe Biden's personality and Donald Trump's personality.
Okay, so in the end, the society is more important than just economics, and I must say that's quite a refreshing thing to hear, because here in Poland we've got a lot of libertarians who, in the end, they put economics above the people, and that's what I'm used to hearing, honestly. So really nice to hear that. Okay, guys. So we'll start with Joshua now. Do you think that NATO will see some major reforms in the upcoming years? So will we actually see some changes in both the structure and, let's say, the military presence of NATO in the coming years?
Excuse me, Jakub, could you please repeat the question, because I didn't.
Okay. Yeah, obviously. So, do you think that NATO will see some major reforms in the coming years? Let's say, will the amount of military presence or the structures of NATO change in the coming years? Will Biden reform it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't think it will be a matter of the upcoming year or maybe even next year. However, the NATO now has to transform itself because there are new challenges facing the world right now. There are new threats, there are new dangers, and there is a new narrative. For many years, there was only one narrative in Western world: pro-NATO and supportive, enthusiastic. Now, especially from countries like France and from Emmanuel Macron, or even from President Donald Trump, we could hear some skepticism about NATO and about its structure and about its doings and strategies. And President Macron even called NATO brain dead. I don't think NATO is brain deaf. However, it is time to rethink the system of our transatlantic security, especially when we have to face new challenges like danger to our cyber security, or, as I said earlier, disinformation, especially now coming from Russia, maybe in the future coming from China. It is a great challenge of Joe Biden's presidency. I think that that next few years will be full of arguments and talks and negotiations, analyses, what to do with NATO, what is our new way to go. I'm not quite sure what way it will go. However, I'm sure it will change. I don't think that US will withdraw its troops from Europe that are here in my country or in Germany. However, I think that the nature of NATO being here and NATO in general will change, and we'll see in what way specifically.
Okay, and Herman, would you add to that, please?
Well, if it needs reforms and stuff, I agree with Joshua that it needs to be up to date with cyber warfare and stuff like that. And of course, for us here in Norway, NATO is very important because we are laying so close to Russia, and with both Sweden and Finland not part of NATO, we absolutely see the necessity of a strong and important NATO. I believe that the most important thing for Joe Biden at this moment is to secure good dialogue and cooperation between countries in NATO. During Donald Trump's presidency, he kind of took up his whip and whipped the European countries. You have to get up to 2% of your GDP for army investments and stuff like that. And I believe, of course, it's important that each country spends enough money in their military. And I also see Donald Trump's frustration that he kind of feels like the US are taking care of the European countries without the Europeans kind of, well, the Europeans are kind of taking it for granted. And I believe that hopefully Joe Biden will work for better cooperation between each of the European countries and make sure that NATO will be a cooperative organization with not just US running the whole thing and demanding everything from European countries. I believe that it's important to work together, and when it comes to what they need to focus on and if they need reforms and stuff like that and what Joe Biden will do about it, I have not very much to say. It's not my special field to know these things, but I believe that Joe Biden's main focus will be to make the countries cooperate.
All right. So, I mean, if we're talking military, then I guess I'll make a quick follow-up with the next military-related question, and that is, if there is a hypothetical invasion on either Europe or any other part of the world, let's say it's Chinese or Russian, just a military emergency, do you think that the US will actually step in with the full potential of its military to defend their allies, or would you think that they would be more reluctant and maybe just do a few little things, just so they say that they have helped, but it would not be a real defense, so to say? Herman.
Thank you, and thank you for a great question. I believe that the U.S. will intervene. If there would be a attack on a European country that's part of NATO, but it depends on how. For example, it used to be a big debate in Norway how much Russia could take of the northern part of Norway before the US would intervene and stop the attack. And very many think that probably Russia could take a pretty fair amount of Norway before the US would go to war against Russia. And of course, that's a scary thing for us Norwegians, because there's a lot of oil in northern Norway, and Russia are having these practices where they're practicing on taking over parts of Norway. So, but I'm not really scared. I believe that the US would intervene and stop the attacks. But of course, you would have to see at the risk and what you gain from it. If they take a small part of northern Norway, the US probably wouldn't think that, okay, that's so important that we have to go to war against Russia for it. But if they take a major part of Norway, of course they would do. But I'm pretty sure that Joe Biden will. I kind of feel more safe with Joe Biden as president in opposed to Trump, because Joe Biden will make more stability, and you kind of know where you have Joe Biden and what he will do. with Donald Trump, I don't even think his wife knows what he does. So yeah, that's that.
All right. Yeah, I think that also that Trump was a bit more isolationistic. So even in terms of just a military action, he would be much more reluctant. Joshua, do you agree with that sort of stance, or do you think that even under Biden's administration, the US would be rather reluctant to help an invaded country?
Well, I would even say that Donald Trump's wife is the last person that knows what he's going to do. But anyway, I believe that that U.S. military assistance in a threat on Europe or other areas of the world is to be considered in regard to a concrete situation, because I believe that Americans and Democrats especially already learned their lesson from the previous military intervention, all the intervention that they had, and so they will no more be naive that no matter what happens, things will always somehow get the way they wanted, so that they can make a military intervention without clear plan, without enough support from the world's public opinion, from other countries, and that somehow they will succeed. After Iraq, it is clear that you have to gain a lot of intelligence, and you have to have few real detailed varieties of what is going to happen, especially if your goal is to remove someone from power. However, if we talk specifically about Europe, it is clear to me that any threat towards European countries will bring America's answer. For me, there is no doubt that America will be here if we are in danger. Americans are having their troops here. Americans are having their businesses here that are in large proportion going on trading with EU. And they are our long-standing partner in fighting back those who threaten our lands. So I have no fears that if something happens here on our continent, they will be here for us. So that's my answer to your question. I actually have a question to Herman.
Oh, that's great. Another one. Yeah, sure, go on.
Well, I would like to know if you and your party would welcome the so-called European Army, because we are for some time already talking about European military sovereignty. And so one of the plans and the propositions to make Europe stronger when it comes to our military power is to get rid of countries' military and build one strong European military force. So what is your stance on the issue?
I'll just add that it's a great question, and you sort of took one away from me. So I guess I'll have you answer it later. But yeah, Herman, go on.
Thank you. I'm very. It's a new idea to me. Norway isn't part of the EU, so I don't know how that would be set up. But I believe that my party would probably be more fond of a strong Norwegian army, and that each country have its own individual have to take care of their own army on their own. And of course, it's interesting idea, and I will have to think more about it. But my party itself is skeptical of the EU, and I believe that it will probably maybe become some bureaucracy around it, and disagreements, and okay, this country is not doing enough, and I believe that when countries have to work for their own well-being and make sure that they can take care of themselves in one stance, it will mean more to spend money on the military as well, because you kind of have this own feeling for your own country as well, patriotic if you want. But I believe it's a great idea, and of course we have joint military forces in the UN, or not military forces, but peacekeeping forces, and maybe that the Europeans would have their own kind of mini army, like countries would still have their own armies, but in addition cooperate in the European partnership. That is an idea I'm more fond of, yes.
Yeah, I actually believe that the European Union has a sort of a similar thing, like a fast response group or something like that. That's sort of multinational. That's what I think currently exists. So Joshua, about that European army that you asked about. So what's your opinion?
Well, I for sure at least partly agree with Herman. I mean, it would bring a lot of problems, like he mentioned, countries arguing who is doing enough, who's not. I think it's an interesting idea because now we see that America is not free from people that want to isolate the country from their partners. And so what happens if another one comes in, if we are in danger from, for example, Russia? Are we then safe enough? Are we ready? Are we in a proper level of military cooperation between the countries? Well, for now, I don't think so, and I think we should be doing much more to build the European sovereignty of military, not only within EU, also with the countries like Norway or maybe even Switzerland, but for now I don't see the possibility of making the common European army. It is a part of national sovereignty to have an army. And it might be very difficult for a huge part of society to understand why we give it up to be ruled by someone else. So I think we will kind of look much more for a mixed system while we keep our own militaries, but build the stronger cooperation between countries, maybe some kind of force that is built of soldiers from different countries. However, for now, I don't see the possibility of making a common European army.
Okay. I guess that would actually be quite impossible. Maybe what's the word? I forgot. The attitudes that the different European countries have, even inside, just regional groups. There's a lot of debate, and the topics such important as military would probably drag on for years before the army itself would materialize. Got a bit slightly different question for both of you. I mean, it's the same, but regarding your own countries. So, Herman, do you think that the Norway and America relations, would they improve under Biden or maybe deteriorate?
Well, Norway, at least in my party used to be part of the like the leaders of the country, and then we went out, and now we're just part of the parliament. And in our party, we say that the US is our most important ally, and I believe so as well. The Norwegian Prime Minister has been not been a very good fan of Donald Trump, and I believe that she would absolutely be more fond of working with Joe Biden instead of Donald Trump. I don't think it's been kind of an ice front between them, between the Norwegian Prime Minister and Donald Trump, but it seems like it's been hard to do to cooperate with America, mainly because, as I've said earlier as well, because there's very little stability with Donald Trump, and it's hard to say what Joe Biden would do and what he won't do and stuff like that. But of course, he was the vice president of Barack Obama. He, in many cases, have the same ideas as Barack Obama. Of course, Norway was a huge fan of Barack Obama, gave him the Nobel Peace Prize and everything. So I believe that it will probably grow closer again between Norway and the US after Biden has become president.
Okay, so Joshua, the same question to you about Poland, and just to give you a bit of background, the governing party in Poland has sort of put the international relations on one card, that is America, and they were very fond of Donald Trump, so they really supported it. So how will actually Biden change the relations with Poland? Will they still be as nice and as good, or maybe we'll have to look for some other allies than just the Trump administration?
Well, I'm afraid to say that this is the only thing that I fear about Biden's presidency, because our government made it very clear that they are on the side of Donald Trump, whatever happens. And so it was actually sometimes quite embarrassing to see how they let him rule themselves, just not holding to our sovereign position, not holding to our Polish position, our interest, but to be so weak when it comes to having any relations with Donald Trump. So I think a great example of it is that our president waited so long with a gratulation note for the new president. It took him a very, very long time, and his note to the public when the attack on Capitol took place seemed like he might even leave him some space that, maybe the call would be successful and they could still have Donald Trump there. So it was very ridiculous. I'm afraid that relation between my country and America will weaken under President Biden, and I can clearly understand him, because our politics, our our leaders were so dedicated to Donald Trump, to his ideas, to his rhetoric, that if I were him, I would probably do the same. And so it is not good for my country. I believe that if we were in power, as we were during almost all Obama's administration, when Joe Biden was vice president, our relations were great, and now it would be the same. But we're now only in opposition, so we have to wait, and we are ready to rebuild our relation with the US. We just need voters to give us the chance.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, that's all the planned questions, so to say. I see a few nice ones in the chat, so I'll read them to you. Okay. This one is not really regarding the topic of the debate, but do you guys support the death penalty? I mean, there's been quite a lot of debate about the capital one, and I'm not really sure why it popped up in this debate, but yeah, I'll ask it to you anyway. Joshua.
No, I do not support capital punishment. I'm against the death penalty. I have to admit that it was for quite a long time a great problem of my moral choice to decide whether the capital punishments should be the one to be used against some criminals. However, finally I came with myself to the feeling that it is against what we in the Western world believe in, our values. It is against our own feeling that even if we disagree with someone, even if we find someone a person that would better not exist, we need to treat them with dignity and with humanity. And I also believe that it is a greater penalty to keep somebody locked for life than to just lose them and give them no feel of what is it to lose your freedom and have no choice of what is going to happen with your future.
All right, Herman, what do you have to say about the death penalty? Actually, just before that, I think that the question maybe popped up because Donald Trump's administration has actually suspended the moratorium on executing people. So the first execution in quite a while took place during that administration, and I believe that the first execution of a woman in like 50 years or so actually took place a few days ago. So maybe that's the reason behind the question. Yeah, I'm sure I can speak.
Thank you. It's very, very interesting question, and I am against the death penalty because there's a lot of reasons. As a libertarian, every person has its right to life, and that's also a human right. And capital punishments go against that. So that's one reason behind why it should not be legal. But as well, if it so would happen that the government kill a person and it's proven later on that the person is innocent, it's also a very big thing that in my perspective the government can't handle. And as well, it's kind of like this paradox that you tell people that, okay, if you so would kill a murderer with death penalty, then you learn the murderer that murder is wrong by murdering. And I believe that's a paradox. It's wrong, and I'm very against the death penalty. In Norway, we have very mild penalties and punishments in general. The longest sentence you can get in Norway is 21 years. So if you, we have had this massacre in Norway 10 years ago where 79 people were killed, and the killer got 21 years in prison, and then they will have another go with him and see if he's a danger to society, and then he can get another 21 years sentence. I believe that should be tougher, and even like it should be possible to give a life sentence, but I'm very against the death sentence. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I see that. That's a really valid point. Okay, next one. So, how do you guys view patent rights on the COVID vaccine? As in, should they be abolished? I mean, just in terms of the vaccine, should they be abolished so that the production can be much quicker and the cost of the vaccine can be much cheaper? Let's say, I believe the polio vaccine didn't really have patent rights on it, so maybe the COVID one shouldn't be patented either. Joshua.
Well, I'm sorry, I again have a problem of hearing your question. You're talking about the vaccine. What exactly?
Yeah, okay. I guess I'll repeat it a bit louder. I've been told that my mic sort of malfunctions. The patent rights on COVID vaccine, should they be abolished so as to increase the production speed and drop the costs? I believe that the polio vaccine, the creator of the polio vaccine, chose not to patent it to help with creation of the vaccine. And maybe the patent rights for COVID should be abolished as well.
Well, if I understand the question, I believe that every company that made the vaccine has its right to make money on it. They put their efforts, their money for searching for a vaccine, and I don't believe it's fair to give it away from them. They have the right. They are the ones that invented it, that make it possible for us to save ourselves. We have to. It is not only I think in line with the law, but it's also our moral need to pay them for it. And for me, there is no question here. I have no doubt.
All right, and Herman, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And the thing is that the medical business is very discussed, and of course, because you have moral, and then you have the ability to earn money as well. And people, it's either you think with your heart or you think with your brain. And I believe that the patent is important because the companies need an incentive to actually find the vaccine and work with it. And if they wouldn't earn any money on it, there wouldn't be any incentive for them to actually go out and find a cure against COVID-19. So I believe that their right to patent it is very important, and I believe that it in the end it will make us get vaccinated faster.
Sure. Another one about COVID. I see. how long do you guys think the USA will fight with the COVID-19 crisis? And do you guys think that your own countries can handle the crisis quicker than the United States? Herman.
Thank you. Yes, I believe that that we will handle the crisis faster in Norway than in the US. We have rolled out the vaccines in Norway and have vaccinated the old people and the risk group, or what it's called. And in the US, there's kind of this attitude against COVID that there's a lot of people that think it's not dangerous at all, and that they won't be vaccinated, and that they won't wear a mask and stuff like that. When it comes to the economics, it's very hard to say, because in the US, the government hasn't spent a lot of money when it comes to COVID, but in Norway alone, we have spent around €500 million to businesses and for people that are fired for from their job and stuff like that. So it's a lot of money spent already, and it probably will be a lot more. I haven't looked into what the US has spent already, but in addition to that, it will probably be a lot of not fighting, but between, for example, the US will probably have sanctions against China because of the virus itself, and it will be interesting to see if there will be any economic sanctions against China, for example, who were the reason for it spreading and stuff like that. So I believe it's very important to keep the businesses running, and in that way you will earn the money back at some point. But I believe that the US will probably take some time to get over it. Yeah.
All right. Actually, I think that's about it. Let me quickly check the chat. Yeah, I guess that's it. So thanks to everybody for the debate. Actually, maybe you guys would like to ask a few questions to yourselves before have you answered, let's say, your questions already. Maybe Joshua has another one for Herman, or maybe finally Herman will retaliate with a question to Joshua.
Well, I have to thank Herman for his patience with my questions, but I think that's enough from me.
All right, so no third question. And Herman, what about you?
Yeah, thank you very much for preparing questions for me. I appreciate it a lot, and it was very great and informative questions. But I would like to ask Joshua about the COVID situation in Poland. What's it like for you guys?
All right, I think Joshua should answer this one. I mean, he's the debatant after all.
Yeah, sure. But I think, Jakub, we could share some views on the situation. And first of all, I have to admit that I had easier questions in my life, and much more the ones that I would much more like to answer, because the situation is not great, I would say. The government is not doing very well. The procedures about vaccines and the information that is given to the people is unclear, is a mess, is difficult. We have many problems right now. So I'm actually very pessimistic about what's going to happen in my country, the government clearly has no plan about what to do. Clearly, there is a chaos when it comes to about how many vaccines we actually have, and about the system of informing people of what they should do, or where they should register, or where, when, and where they can get a vaccine. It is going terribly bad. And so, well, I don't know if there is any hope for us to get better. I think that it will be even much mess in the coming months. However, I just hold some hope that somehow me and my family will somehow get the chance to get vaccinated this year, because for now I fear that it won't be possible for me for sure, but I hope that my parents will be the one that at least will get some help.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Even though there's quite a lot of misinformation, I still believe the program, the vaccination program, is going quite fast as far as I'm informed, and it's actually even gaining some speed. I've signed up for the vaccine, but no date yet. I know that a part of my family will get vaccinated in a month, I believe, which is surprisingly quick. But yeah, when you sign up for the program, you don't actually get the date at which you will get the vaccine. They just say that they will call you when it's time. So yeah, there's not a lot of information you get right away, and the handling of the crisis so far has been quite chaotic, and there's been a lot of this process that the government shuts some stuff down, then they reopen it just to shut something else down, and then they reopen it again, and it's quite a mess to just know what's closed at the moment and what's open. And on the other hand, I believe that a lot of the entrepreneurs are getting quite mad over the fact that they are forcibly being shut down, and there is nothing that they get in return from the government. So there's actually not a single care package that would support them, and so people are quite mad because they have to shut down their hotels, their restaurants, but they get nothing in return, and they have to spend money to keep them alive. So that's the overall impression, I believe. I don't think it's quite pretty, but I believe it could have been. There's actually a question to you, Herman, which is, so you know that Joshua is considered a centrist here in Poland, a center left leaning, I would actually say. Well, it sort of depends on who you ask, but I'll just tell you that the right here in Poland is much further right than I guess in Norway. And would you like, do you know what the right in the Eastern countries looks like, and how do you view, let's say, the extremely rightist ideologies?
Yeah. Well, I've heard some things, but of course, I'm not an expert on Eastern European politics. But the right side in Norway, it would probably go around the center in other European or America, for in that case. Norway is a very social democratic country, and kind of every party in the parliament is social democratic to some scale. And then you have the youth parties that are more idealistic and like the ideology and stuff like that. And I would be my views on economics would be considered crazy in Norway, because I want lower taxes and stuff like that. And well, in Eastern Europe, there's the leaders we see. We have this right wind going across the Eastern European countries, and it's not only right side, but it's right populistic and protectionist forces. It's not more free economics and stuff like that. It's strict immigration. It's and also against people that like LGBT people and stuff like that. It's not nice to see. I believe that you can see that many of the very rightist leaders in Eastern European countries are less tolerant against people than what you see in many other countries. Me, myself, as a libertarian, I work for the fact that people can be whoever they want if they want to, and that they should live free lives, and that the government shouldn't interfere with their lives. But the right that you see in Eastern Europe, or with Trump as well, is protectionist and very against people's free rights. So I believe that's kind of a scary thing. We see that in Norway as well. There's a lot of people that are very tough and hard and almost racist against immigration. And my party is up for a strict immigration politics, but we see a lot of people that are way to the right of us again. They are not in the parliament, but you see it that people on Facebook or whatever that have they are very little tolerant, and I believe that's scary. For example, against Islam or people that as men who likes men and women who like women and stuff like that, and trans rights and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And as I said, there's a lot of libertarians here in Poland who, at the end, they say that economics is more important. And so I believe let's say the biggest right-wing party when it comes to economics is actually against the LGBTQ community, as in, they do not support gay rights, while also being really libertarian when it comes to abolishing taxes and stuff like that. So yeah, there's obviously a big difference. Yeah, as I think that we are coming to an end now. I don't see any more questions, honestly. So yeah, thanks for the great debate. I really had a lot of fun. And just let me say the one thing that I really love to say, and it's my first time I'll be able to say it in English, to every single viewer, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We'll see you guys next time, I think. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you to Herman for the debate.